Hey guys, Waifu Belector here, the only fair human on Earth, back again with another Marvel Rivals video. And I was not planning to make any more Rivals content anytime soon, because after a whole heap of hours of playing, it is literally just Overwatch again. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Overwatch had their chance. It's just funny. But I'm here anyway, talking about Rivals because of the great debate. The debate about Marvel Rivals needing or not needing role queue. And the need and benefit of role queue in this game is an obvious one, but I'll still talk about it a little later in this video. But even still, I kinda get if you think the game doesn't need it or shouldn't have it. I could probably make an argument for that side. However, the arguments that are being posed for that side are complete and utter nonsense. Like, it's not the opinion itself that the game shouldn't have role queue. It's when you ask people why, the answer is usually pretty stupid and kinda just fails to understand the game and possibly even what role queue does. So let's talk about this. So if I didn't make it obvious, I am on the side of add role queue. It would only help this game. Doesn't mean I'm gonna stop playing it if they don't add role queue or anything like that, but it would literally just make the game better. Hold on, don't fire up your keyboard, listen first, then respond. I'm not finished. Now, as I noted in my last video about Rivals, the literal majority of the roster, most of the characters, are in the duelist category. Yes, that's a problem. But even without that fact, when you present people with 3 categories and one of them is the damage one, the attacking one, the aggressive one, the one that theoretically results in kills, people are gonna pick that one. It's just what the majority of people find the most appealing. And of course, they'll just find it all the more appealing if all the most popular characters and the most choice is in that category too. My point is, there was no version of this game where people weren't going to flock to the duelist role. But the NetEase devs didn't help by completely filling it with all the characters. The thing is, this is a team game and these roles denote what a character's primary objective should be per match as part of that team. In short, the roles matter and the team composition matters. So if everyone picks duelist, it's not gonna go well. If 4 people on our 6-man team pick duelist, things likely aren't gonna go well. 3 duelists is manageable. It can even be beneficial in very specific situations, but it isn't ideal 90% of the time. And yet, it's virtually unavoidable. Your team composition is almost always going to be fucked up, and almost always because you'll have too many duelists. So how could you stop this? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's called role queue. And I'll be honest, I'm not even really sure what the pushback is about. Is it just because you guys really want to fuck up all your team compositions? You're that dedicated to the cause? All role queue does, if you don't know, is have you choose which role you want to play before you find a match, and then locks you into characters of that role for that match. In other words, it makes sure you have a balanced team at all times. Now, I'll get into some detractor theories I've been able to think up and how to mitigate them in a second. But first, let's talk about the stupid stuff. I saw more than one person say this, that Marvel Rivals doesn't need role queue, you just need to learn more hero. Which just doesn't even make any sense and completely misses the point of what role queue even does. There's no correlation. Let me paint you a picture. Pretend I'm skilled with every single hero in the game. I hop online, I queue up, I find a match, and my whole team picks duelists. At that point, it doesn't even matter what I do. With 4 or 5 duelists on my team, I can pick tank, healer, whatever. I can hack the game and make up a fucking role. It doesn't matter. How would my variety of hero skill help me? But okay, let's assume what these people meant by you need to learn more heroes is that everyone needs to learn more heroes. That's your suggestion on how to fix an obvious problem? Everyone needs to get better at the game? I've got news for you. It's not gonna happen. And like I said, this happens in games even if the roster is balanced between roles and the characters are wholly original. People just pick the attack one. That's what they like. It's simple, it's action-packed, you get all the credit, it's the quote-unquote cool choice. You think everyone who insta-locks Duelist and won't get off doesn't know how to play anyone else? They do. And they don't give a fuck. It's called being selfish. Welcome to Earth. All Roll Q would do is make sure I don't have 4 guys with a stupid little fist icon next to their character portrait. Why is that so bad? Now let's talk about some of the changes that would come from Roll Q that make a bit more sense to be worried about. But it's up to me to think of them because the people who don't want Roll Q don't know what they're mad at and are too dumb to make their points. So I've got to play both sides. I guess the first thing is that you can't hot swap between roles if somebody is really bad in their role. Like if you're good at all roles and you see your damage player struggling, you can't just go, I'll do damage, you do healing and swap easy because you're both locked into that role, right? This is true, and although I think it would be well worth the trade-off for what you gain by having Roll Q, I've still thought of a way to mitigate it. There can just be a formal role trade request available during games. Like, picture this. You're playing, someone's not doing so hot, you need to swap roles. You pop open the team menu, click the person you want and press request trade. They get a little notification that they can confirm or deny that'll swap your roles upon death. Honestly, simple enough. Keeps Roll Q intact, keeps team compositions intact, still allows for hot swaps between players of varying skill. And you say, well, what if they won't swap with me? Well, what if they don't swap without Roll Q? Then you just have more people doing one thing than you need and less people doing something that you really need. Everyone's not always gonna make the best decision. There's no way to account for that. At least with Roll Q, this would take the most hampering one out of the hands of the selfish player base. So what other problems might you have with Roll Q? Ones that make sense anyway. Well, maybe you feel other team compositions are better or more viable than 2, 2, and 2, which is fair enough to think, but you are wrong. And I'll be honest, I've got nothing for you with that complaint besides just flat out disagreeing. I can kinda think of some gameplay stuff to get around it, but without thinking about it way harder, my initial stuff feels cumbersome at best. So if this is your main hangup with Roll Q, that you think 3 duelists, 1 tank, 2 strategists is better or something like that, then fair enough. I completely disagree, and we'll just have to be some disagreeing motherfuckers. And that'll be your little hill to stand on that I can't get you off of. That randomly changing your team composition adds a layer to the game, when I don't think it does. I think it's simply a response to selfish players doing whatever they want despite what the team needs, being mistaken for an intended game layer. You know, it's not a bug, it's a feature almost. Regardless, this is a pointless conversation, I know. The NetEase devs doubled down and said again, they are not considering Roll Q. Part of me thinks this is because there are a lot of misconceptions about the downfall of Overwatch and people who foolishly cite Roll Q as a problem, when Open Q still exists in Overwatch, just saying. Also, I think it was more so that Overwatch did nothing for 2 years straight, came back with nothing to show for it but 5v5 structure, a reduced content schedule, and broken promises. That might have something to do with the downfall of Overwatch, not Roll Q. But I'm not sure NetEase is smart enough to recognize that, just as the public isn't. And so they just are kind of misguidedly like, we're not doing anything Overwatch did, except, well, everything, because this is just third-person Overwatch with Marvel characters. No, I'm kinda kidding, I'll admit. That's selling the game short just a little bit, but not a ton. So, NetEase, I know you're not gonna do Roll Q, but I'm just letting you know it would be good for the quality of the game. However, maybe not the perception, because people are quite dumb. So they could interpret that change as you going the way of Overwatch, which, as idiotic as it is, still doesn't change the outcome that that perception might have. So maybe this is the right call, but hell, I'd take Roll Q only in competitive, really. Don't even need it for casual play, but losing points because I've got 4 damage guys that won't switch, that's horrible. But it is what it is, I guess. Oh, also for some reason, if someone disconnects during your competitive match and never comes back, you still lose points for losing. What the fuck is that? They've got to fix that. Anyway, I'm done. I think I've covered all the bases. Go ahead and drop your angry comments. I'm sure they'll be very rational, well thought out, and not at all ignoring half of everything I said. And if you enjoyed this video, why not give this video a like and even subscribe? I'd greatly appreciate it. I drop videos about games and the games industry every single week without fail. You won't regret the subscription, probably. But even if you don't subscribe though, thanks for watching, and until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I'm just a normal guy. I like hentai, and I like Marvel Rivals, even without roll queue. Goodbye.